Okay, so here we are in Maya. Some of you have some stuff like a meteorite that crashes into a planet, or some other reason that you're going to need your object to deform in a sort of a non-standard way. So like some of you may have a strange shaped meteorite. We can go in here, use soft select to do some light editing on that if we wanted to. And so soft select, if we have that turned on, you'll see it's just going to kind of fall off. Let's set this back to my normal. Oh, I need to uncheck preserve UVs because it doesn't like that. And so just by doing some sort of basic manipulation here, we're going to get a pretty organic shape, right? And so this might be something that you would use to take into Mudbox and sculpt in, your holes into it and everything. But let's say this is what hits this planet, right? And I'm just going to do a quick animation of that. S12 crashes into it, right? So the problem with that is how do we get this to look like it just deformed, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control D, and I'm just going to make a copy of our original shape. Okay, and so this is a pretty handy tool. And we don't even have to move it if we don't want to. I can actually hide my original, and we'll call this original Earth. Right. And then this is meteor. I think I spelled that right. And I'm just going to hide my original Earth. Control H. Okay. And so what we can do is we can go in here now and we can sculpt this shape of what it would look like if it were deformed. Okay, maybe even push that in deeper. Let's say it really crashes into it and does some crazy stuff to it. I'm going to go back to my vertex, maybe grab that point, and start just sort of manipulating these areas that would be impacted by this collision. I'm going to try to start, I mean, this may be a pretty significant, like, for all I know it causes the backside of the planet to ripple or something, I don't know. I'm just going through here and doing however I want to deform this. And so maybe it would look a little bit more like this. Maybe this planet would actually be more high res, and what we would do is do more of this deformation inside of Mudbox with the sculpting. But basically, just as long as there you go, let's say that's what we're going for. So this was the copy. We will call this hit 1. Okay, and I'm just going to move this out of the way. And bring back my original Earth. Shift H. Okay, so what we have here is the same exact mesh, right? I've duplicated it and I just made some changes to it. It's just some of the vertices and faces and edges are in a different configuration. Now they're all in the same order, they're all in the same topology, it's just been manipulated. Okay, so if I grab this and grab this, under my animation tab, go to create deformer blend shape, we're going to get a new input here called Blendshapes 1, and you'll see that on Blendshapes 1 we have hit 1. You'll also see that under my animation editor, under Blendshapes, we have this new Blendshapes 1, and you'll see hit 1 on there. And if we have multiples, there'll be multiple sliders here. But if I move this, you'll see that I can now animate this object deforming in between that. Okay, and so let's see how this animation looks. It looks like it starts hitting around frame 9. Right, so I'll hit a keyframe on that, and then maybe by frame 12, keyframe like that, key, and what we should get now is that. Okay, now again, I know this isn't This isn't perfect by itself, but this is how we can get some interesting deformation. That piece over there shouldn't be happening, so I would probably just be more careful when I'm sculpting or just not show that side. So a combination of that and some smaller particles that would break off, maybe this, and I wouldn't duplicate the same one, I would make new particles that break off. So let's say those two. Let's go back to frame 9 again. Or let's say by frame 11, we're already starting to see these move out and go in different directions. Of course, these will be much more jagged and much more detailed. I'm just kind of showing you some basics here. So let's say this is where they're going to be by that frame. Frame 9 or 8, they're not even visible, so let's just go ahead and push those back inside. Okay. So if these were much more jagged and detailed, then maybe what we would actually be getting here would look a little bit more like an impact. And then after we put a little bit of particles around that to sort of hide what's happening or sort of disguise it a little bit, we may be able to get some decent looking destruction from this. Now this is just two, you would want like 50, and that would be much smaller and much different shapes and much more jagged and debris-like. But this is a nice way of getting that. Now I want to show you one more thing, and this one is a pain in the butt. But I'm going to crank up all of my values here, something like this. I'm going to move this over. And this probably just won't work the first time. Like it really just always just sucks. So if I go to dynamics, a second so I can remember where this is at. I think it's this. Okay. So I'm going to go to create shatter, select this, and so we get a couple of different options: solid shatter, crack shatter. Let's do solid shatter. Shard counts, let's go ahead and leave it at 5. I'm going to have to grab a vertex first. I want to turn off my soft select and just grab, let's say this one, and this kind of gives it a seed of where to start. Right? Post operations, we just want shapes. We can make edge jagginess a little bit more. We can do a whole bunch of different things, but a lot of times when I hit create, it gives me an error. Okay, and so this is annoying, but if we just go to modify, freeze transformations, delete by type, history, sometimes that fixes it. But the shatter just gives you all sorts of bugs. So hit create, you'll see it starts thinking, and it seems to be finished. Now what it did is it took my original cube, it's still there, right? And I can hit Control H, so we can still use that if that was our planet. You'll see what we have now is this new cube, and it broke it up into a whole bunch of jagged looking pieces. Okay, now we can make these more jagged. Just go back before that even happened. There we go. Again, this is under Effects, Shatter. I'm going to make my shard count a little higher, maybe 7, and I'll make my jagginess much higher. And create. There we go. And so you're going to see we're going to get a lot of really nice broken up pieces here. And so just kind of play around with that until you get something breaking the way you want to. But now basically, and what you'll also notice is this creates a new material to go with this shatter interior. And so if I want that shatter interior to have a checkerboard texture, I can. Or any other texture if like your object has a different texture on the interior than the exterior. So once we get it to this point, then basically what I could have is I could be animating my regular object, and then at any point hide that and unhide the shattered pieces to break it apart. Okay, so I know that's a long way to go for that, but hopefully those are two tools that we can use. So let's move all these back together. I'll kind of show you what I mean. If I Control H, hide my shatter group, Shift H, unhide this, and then this object is animating along. It gets to this point, I animate the visibility to off, and I animate this visibility to on, and over one frame it switches, and now we can animate these things sort of breaking apart. Okay, so that's another way that you may want to play with things that you want to shatter. So let's say this meteorite shatters on impact, then we can shatter that meteorite and break it into all these pieces so we can have it sort of crunch as it hits there. Impacts are going to be really difficult to make look exactly right. It's going to be a combination of different pieces breaking, different pieces deforming, and sort of some dust and debris cover. And so we can get some of that with some particles, but some of it's just going to have to be some manual stuff. So I want to talk just really, really briefly about particles and dynamics. You're going to see a couple of different things. So like if we go to in dynamics, we can create particles, right? And they work relatively well. But they give you a lot of, if I just say particles emit from object, right? We're going to start seeing these particles emit, and if we render, we don't see them. And that's because certain types of particles only render with certain types of render engines, blah, blah, blah. And so it becomes very, you'll see that we have the emitter, and the emitter has tons of options to set on it, and the particles themselves have tons of different options to set on them. And this really is tons because we started digging through here. There's just tons of stuff to change. Having said that, we can also create end particles. End particles are very similar to regular particles, except for they work a little bit better. And so we can do like thick cloud. And so end particles, create end particles, emit from object. Right. And so we are going to get a little bit of a better render option this way. And so it's going to try, but boy does it render slow. I don't know if you can hear my computer revving up here. It's going to take off any minute. So yeah, it's your call on if you want to use rendered particles like this. The way you speed this up is to go in there and play with the settings and make this not quite as crazy dense. Right, and so you got omni, rate particles per second. Let's reduce that to like 20 or something. And so we'll see that maybe fewer particles will help. And we're going to end up with a lot of different issues on how to render this, but this seems to be a little faster to reduce the rate. But this is still kind of ugly, and so this still needs work, and so maybe it just needs multiple layers of particles. Particles are not something you can just sort of phone in a 20-minute video. It's an entire class. Like it's the effects class. We'll go into a lot of this stuff, so that's why I'm just kind of giving you a starting point. Another option, though, is if we look, I don't know why this has like whatever's going on here. So another option is sometimes there are Let's see if I go to mParticles, get mParticle examples, and sometimes you can, this is just going to pull up the visor, and you'll be able to see some of the mParticle examples that you could use, and you can just drag these into your scene. So this dusty smoke or this jet trail, but those aren't the only, so we also have these fluids that we could add. So we could do 3D fluids. So there's a cloud, fluffy cloud, and these things are things that you could use if you absolutely had to. Fluid examples, we got explosions, so we have a couple of this, and so you can grab this and middle mouse drag this into your scene. Problem is, it's also going to bring a bunch of other things with it. Like it brought a camera, and this is just going to render this blast best, okay, from that camera. But if we render from this camera, we'll probably get relatively good results too. So that may not be exactly what we're looking for, but it's a good start, right? And so from there you can sort of tweak around with that. I would say don't use any of these right out of the box, because then it's just going to be obvious that that's what this was to anybody who's ever used Maya before. But some of these you could probably mix and match and get a relatively decent example. So. Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and stop the video there. I think I've covered a lot of what I needed to cover. Let me look and see my list. So I've got Blendshapes, Mudbox, and this is a little bit of the particles. Lava, if you're wanting to actually do fluids, I will say that Bifrost seems to be working really well. I just haven't explored it enough to be able to support that, so if you want to explore how Bifrost works, go for it. I would consider trying to fake it some way first, though, if that, like, it looks like it's going to be super easy, and you may be able to get a great starting point, because there's some Bifrost examples in here. So I mean, I can do a milk pour, and this may just come back and bite me. Oh, it's all hidden in there with the blast. If we hit play, I'm not actually seeing it, so who knows where that went. Anyway, milk pour cam. We're going to do 300. Okay, well there's that. Anyway, you're going to have to kind of play around with Bifrost to get that to work. The tutorials make it look super easy. I'm not exactly sure how that works. So, if that's something you're interested, look into it and see what you can get. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video now. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.